Hello, everyone, and welcome to jw28martin's Sports Talk. I am your host, jw28martin, and let's get right into the show, everyone. So, a couple friends brought this topic up since basically we got all sports shut down pretty much until this Corona crap is done. So, I'm here to entertain y'all, talk some sports. Hopefully, you all will enjoy it. So, just so you know, anybody that's watching right now, if you feel like you want to chime in on what I'm talking about, you got the live chat, but right to the side here. Go ahead and type in, say hi or whatever. If you want to ask questions, go right ahead. But I'm gonna dive right into a couple of the segments I already have pre-planned. One of them was discussing the best players in the NBA currently. So, being honest, I've done a little bit of my research. Of course, there's no really right or wrong answer. Everybody's opinions are different. So, as of right now, I believe, just to start off, the top 5 players in the NBA, and not in any specific order, I believe are LeBron, I believe Luka, Giannis, Kawhi, and actually, you guys are going to look at me really weird when I say this, Trae Young. Reason why, and I'm going to dive right in on the Trae Young, because I have a feeling a lot of you are going to look at me and say, why in the hell did you say Trae Young out of anybody? Like, why use Trae Young in this conversation? Well, to be honest, the reason why I say Trae Young is one of the top 5 players in the NBA right now, the guy leads in points and assists. He's averaging about, I want to say about 25 points a game with about 9 rebounds. And or not 9 rebounds, 9 assists. So, and with 5 rebounds, actually. So, being honest, those are some pretty good numbers, even though his team isn't very good. And the thing is, I don't take team success into account for how good the player is. If you look at his numbers, he has a better shooting percentage and better 3-point percentage than James Harden, who a lot of people put in that top 5 category. I don't believe Harden even belongs in the top 5 category because he travels a lot, though it's not called. I get that, but in my opinion, since he gets away with a lot of bullshit, in my opinion, I think Harden doesn't belong in that top 5 spot. Trae Young's a young up and coming player. Harden's an aging player at this point in his career. And also, I'm taking into account that, and this isn't fair on Harden's end, but he's also choked immensely in the playoffs. Though I will say Young has not had that opportunity to be in the playoffs because he plays for a really shitty team. But I still think Trae Young is still a better player than Harden by far. But a couple of the other players I named to talk about again, I named Luka, Giannis, Kawhi, and LeBron. Those were the other 4 players I put in my top 5. Again, not in any specific order, but judging by the numbers and everything, like Kawhi, you can't go wrong. He's the defending Finals MVP. Giannis, defending MVP. Luka, definitely a guy who I believe, when this season does resume, I think Luka could become the MVP because when he's on the floor, he's the most important player on that team. Like LeBron, like I said, LeBron was on my list as well. LeBron having one of his best years of his career. Then I got I said Giannis already, so that's rounding off my top 5 right there. Now, if I want to go into my further down the list, 6 through 10, I'm going to throw Jason Tatum in that category, Anthony Davis, Damian Lillard, I'm going to actually put Harden on there. And then I also have a couple guys that might surprise you here on my list. I have Butler, I have D'Angelo Russell, I have Kyle Lowry, and John Morant. And a lot of people say Morant's just a rookie, though. But Morant's doing something no rookie's ever done. He's taking a very bad Memphis Grizzlies team and bringing them into the playoffs. I was going to say, it's either them or the Pelicans that are going to end up when the season eventually returns. We're going to see one of those guys, or we're going to see Morant's team, or we're going to see Ball and Ingram's teams. Well, I was going to say Zion's team in the playoffs. Maybe we'll get a treat. Maybe we'll see both of those young teams really back in there or in that. So, yeah, go ahead and give me some feedback on what you guys think so far. Like, what do you guys think about the top? That's, to me, those are the top players in the NBA at this point in time. And I also have Damian Lillard on my list. To name off the whole list one more time, I have Luka, Giannis, Kawhi, LeBron, Trae Young, and then I had Tatum, Davis, Lillard, Butler, Russell, Harden, Lowry, and Morant. Those are the top players in the NBA, in my opinion. And that's going off of numbers and going off of overall how good the player, in my opinion, really is, and how high his ceiling is, and the potential. And to talk about I will say a couple of those players I'm sure you're wondering about. So I look at D'Angelo Russell as one of those up-and-coming guys still, even though he's been in the league for 4 seasons now, I believe. I still think Russell he's still got room to develop. I think he's going to become one of the premier point guards in the league, which he already kind of has. Morant's going to develop into that. Lowry is an aging veteran, but still one on the top of his game. Let's see. All right. That's basically it for question marks, if you guys were wondering. But again, tell me what you guys think. Like, I want some comments. I want some feedback. What do you guys think? What do you think about those players I just named off? And I see EA Sports is in the game. You're very funny, So Steeler King. You're very funny. Ha ha ha. All right. If I'm not getting any comments about what I just said, about the players I named off, then I will move on. I'm going to move on to NFL free agency. Free agency has been very interesting this year. This is the first time in free agency where there's 3 former number 1 picks all available at one time. Like, that's crazy to think. No one would have thought Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, and Jadeveon Clowney would all still be available at this point in time. No one. And especially, I thought Cam would have ended up traded. Winston, I thought, would have ended up back with the Bucs. But now we all know why that happened, why that didn't happen, because you got Tom Brady in Tampa Bay now, which I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But so, being honest, with all those 3 players I just named off, the 3 former number 1 picks, I believe Cam is going to end up either with the Patriots, the Bears, or honestly, I think it's either going to be the Patriots or the Bears for Cam Newton. I think he would fit well in either system. I think what would draw Belichick to sign a guy like Cam is, one, he doesn't have to rebuild, because let's face it, there is not a quarterback on the Patriots roster right now that you could say, and I don't care how biased Patriots fans can be, but there is no quarterback on that roster right now that could lead them to the playoffs. Brian Hoyer is no prize. We all know that. We've seen him in every different system. He's definitely better than he used to be, but that's learning from one of the better quarterbacks that we've ever seen. And honestly, that Stidham kid on their bench, I know he was a rookie last year, but like I only saw him play just a tiny bit, and like he was terrible against the Jets. And I'm like, dude, we were one of the worst teams in the league last year, though our record says different. But we also played a pretty cupcake schedule, like the second half of the season. We played teams like the Giants, the Redskins. Like, I'm sorry, but like, it's pretty easy to get 7-9 when you play teams that are that garbage. Though I will say, give us credit, we did smash on Dallas. We did smash on the Oakland Raiders as well. So 2 teams that were nearly playoff teams. But yeah, I just getting back to the point. I think Cam would fit well with New England Patriots. I think it would give them a different dynamic that they haven't been doing for the last 20 years. Because when you have Tom Brady, who runs like a turtle, like you ain't gonna do any running options with an older quarterback either. So and then when it comes to going to the Bears, I just think at this point, you could bring in Winston, you could bring in Cam, you could bring in any quarterback, and I think that they would do better because Trubisky is not he's not a starting quarterback. I've been very critical of that move, them trading up one more pick just to get that guy. Trubisky was not a solid option just from the get-go. He reminded me a lot of another mistake that the Jets actually made was drafting Geno Smith. Smith was not a polished player. It was just the best quarterback in that draft, and like according to the analysts. And the thing is, he wasn't a very good quarterback though either. Like you see some of those analysts, they act like they're never wrong, but they definitely show that they can be. Back and up, I brought up Cam Newton, said who he was going to go to. I think he's either going to the Patriots or the Bears. Now I'm going to go to Clowney. Clowney, on the other hand, I think there's going to only be a few teams that are interested in him right now. I believe it's going to be Seattle, Tennessee, and the New York Jets. And you guys are probably going to look at me weird. Oh, you're just a Jets fan, so of course you think he's going to go to the Jets. Actually, I don't. I think that's one of the teams he's actually interested in going, but I don't think he's actually going to end up there because I think that the way the Jets have been attacking the free agency, they've been lowballing a lot of players. So what I've heard from some of my sources that the Jets have offered him $13 million for a 1-year deal. And to be honest, I don't think that's going to be enough to get one of the best dynamic pass rushers in the game today. I really don't. So that's my opinion on that. But I would say if I were to put myself in Clowney's shoes, though I probably wouldn't fit in his shoes. But anyway, I think Clowney ultimately should go back to Seattle. He's got something good there in Seattle. Why screw it up? Why leave? Like, Seattle's a team that's going to be in the title hunt every single year because you have a guy named Russell Wilson. Like, this is a quarterback-driven league. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He showed it last year. Like, like, I get it that Tennessee's probably a appealing option at this point, and I get it that the Jets might be an option. I don't know at this point. I don't think he will be. I don't think he'll be really considering them unless the market has really truly dried up, like analysts have said, where he's only he's asking for something way up here, and teams are like, no, we're only going to meet you like here. And that's what a lot of reports say, that he's wanted something like close to 20 million. And more or less teams are thinking, no, how about 15 to 12 million instead? So he's got to try to work those things out. But yeah, I think ultimately Clowney will end up back with the Seahawks. And then the third number one pick a former number one pick I mentioned was Jameis Winston. I think Patriots are still an option for him. I think he could also go to Cincinnati if they decide, oh, they don't want to draft Joe Burrow. They just want to get in a better situation already with a more veteran quarterback, or they could bring him in as a backup. I think Winston could end up in Chicago. I think Winston could also end up in Denver, maybe. Like that, and that's a stretch. I could also see him ending up in Miami as well. The other thing I wanted to mention was the fact that there's a strong possibility that Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston after them trading his one of his best friends and probably one of the top 5 receivers in football, DeAndre Hopkins, to the Cardinals, where Bill O'Brien was just blind. He was blindly smacked in the face, you might as well say. And they literally just took Hopkins for nothing. That's just my opinion. I think they took Hopkins for basically, I'll give you 10 cents. Because a 4th-round pick for one of the best players in the one of the best receivers in the league. Are you dumb? Like, I'm sorry, yes, you got a running back, but he's so freaking injury prone. Like, what was the point in that? You got a David Johnson who's hasn't played a full season in 3 years. You got a 4th-round pick for a receiver that a year ago didn't drop a single pass and literally is literally best friends with your franchise, supposed franchise quarterback. I think Bill O'Brien has lost this team at that point just by trading away one of the best players in football and one of your biggest playmakers and barely getting any return from it. Maybe David Johnson proves all of us wrong and plays a full season. I just don't see it happening. Who knows, though? We won't know until the season starts, if the season starts, which I would say, since it's not supposed to start until September, I'd say we're pretty good. We're in pretty good shape on that. And, whoa, nice. I like the comments, guys. I appreciate it. Definitely keep. Can you all do me a favor? If you can, share this video to your friends. Make sure you get some more people watching this. All right, guys? Would love to get more viewers on this. Make sure if you really do like this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well, guys. I really appreciate you guys tuning in to watch this. Also, just so you guys know, rocking the Kobe jersey today. And now to talk more about NFL free agency. One thing I brought up very little at the beginning was Brady going to the Bucs. And to be honest, great for the Tampa Bay Bucs. I think it was a great move for them. I will say it's a risky move going for a 41-year-old quarterback, but like you can't hit or beat on him for that too much, because it's like Brady's been consistent. Like, I know he's not the greatest. I know he's still not the greatest quarterback in the league now. Like he's slowly slowing down. I think part of that was because of the lack of talent on the Patriots last season. There was when you're throwing your best receiver is Edelman, and then your second best receiver is Mohamed Sanu, like, or even Philip Dorsett at best. Like, yeah, and you had no threat at the tight end position either. Honestly, I would say he with the what. Thank you for the question, by the way. I would say I think he's going to do really well. I think this is the system. If he was going to go anywhere, I think this makes the most sense. He has two very good receivers in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, which are two receivers. I can't say other than the 2007 Patriots team, I don't think Brady's had this kind of talent around him before. Like Evans and Godwin go on the same level as like the kind of attention that you needed for Gronk or Moss. Like you needed those double teams. And the thing is, you can't double team both. Plus, you have OJ Howard and Cameron Brate. So honestly, and then there's also talk that Melvin Gordon might be coming. There was talk, and then he decided to stay within the AFC West. I believe it was. I believe he went to the Broncos, and I get that move because of the whole fact that hey, Chargers didn't want to pay him. Now he just wants to make them pay. To be honest, I don't think Brady would have never gone to the Jets, and I'm gonna just say why. He's publicly stated he hates the Jets, and being honest, whatever. I wouldn't have wanted him there, and also he wouldn't have gone there because they had Sam Darnold. We're not like Tennessee where they kind of had, because Tennessee was in the mix for Brady. That made sense for them because they don't have a developing quarterback under Tannehill, and Mariota was on his way out anyways, who's now a Las Vegas Raider. But like it's just Tennessee was an entirely different situation than the Jets. I don't think that would have ever happened. So, but yeah, to go back on what I was saying, Brady I think is going to make them a better team. I will say this. I just don't see how they would have basically given away their future by signing Brady and then having him play with Darnold. Like I get it, maybe he would have helped. I guess so. I guess in a sense, yeah, he would have helped them because he probably could have helped develop Sam a lot more. Like I definitely agree in that sense. He would have helped them in some sense, but the Jets wouldn't, especially with who has came to the Jets, Gase, and Douglas, like, and all these other front office guys that have joined the Jets. They joined for Sam Darnold. They didn't join to bring a 2-year bandage in Brady. Though Brady probably would have. I don't know, with the lack of talent we've had on the offensive side of the ball, other than Le'Veon Bell and Robbie Anderson, which is now a Carolina Panther, and then we got Jamison Crowder. Other than that, I don't think Brady could have won with this current Jets team. That's just being 100% honest. I hate the Patriots. I hate Brady in the sense of what he's done to the Jets. Like he's destroyed the Jets year in year out. But I just don't think I don't care how good people think he is. I don't think he would. I think it would have been a terrible mistake on Brady's part to sign with Jets if that was even a remote possibility. So let's see. I'm just trying to think. What other big moves have there been? There's been some offensive line trades. There's been some. Like, like there's been some odd stuff going on in free agency. But also, I want to talk about the draft. Now that a lot of teams are now starting to fill out their rosters with free agents, um, now do you wonder like would a would the number one pick, because I know Bengals have reportedly said they will not listen to any calls for that number one pick. I call bullshit. Like, dude, you're telling me you wouldn't, if somebody offered you 3 first-round picks, like one for this year, or no, 2 for this year or whatever, and then 1 for next year, like, you're telling me you wouldn't listen? I'd take that in a heartbeat. If I was the Bengals, I'd be like, you offer me 3 first-round picks, 2 for this year and 1 for next season, I will do that. Like, why I say 2 first-round picks, because I could see a team like Miami, if they don't make moves for any of the quarterbacks I've previously mentioned. I could see Miami making that trade up to number one and taking Burrow, or who knows, maybe it could be Burrow, it could be Tua, it could be Herbert, which I doubt. I feel like it's either going to be Burrow or Tua that's going to be the first quarterbacks off the board. And I know that Washington's the number 2 pick, I believe, and they're already projected to get Chase Young, I believe, from Ohio State. I think that's a done deal. I don't think unless, like I said, unless Cincinnati picks up a quarterback before the draft, I don't see I don't see Young going anywhere else. Because if he goes, say they go and pick up a quarterback, I could see the Bengals picking up Chase Young, number 1 overall. Other than that, I don't see any other weird stuff going on with that. Especially because if he doesn't get drafted by Cincinnati, Ron Rivera is a defensive coach. Of course, he's going to grab him. He's going to bolster up that defense before anything. They already got their franchise quarterback in Haskins, which they hope, I should say. Hope. Quotation mark. Hope. But anyway, I think this is going to be one of the best drafts we've seen in a long time. I think just because of the fact that offensive line help, there's a lot of offensive line help in this draft. There's a lot of wide receiver help in this draft. And there's quite a few decently touted quarterbacks. Besides outside of Burrow and Tua. And to answer your question, any big defensive trades? At this point in time, I don't believe so. I'm going to have to do a quick search on that. Let's see. Big defensive trades for the NFL. Trades 2020 NFL offseason. So, all right. So we do have some big trades. So the Calais Campbell deal. Let's see. Another free agent move I didn't mention. Colts signed Phillip Rivers to a 1-year deal. I thought that was a pretty good move for the Colts. Like, I totally forgot about Rivers going to the Colts. But to answer your question on defensive trades, I think the biggest trade of all had to have been the Calais Campbell deal, which I'm still trying to find. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So Eagles traded for Lions cornerback Darius Slay. For those who are watching that don't know who Darius Slay is considered one of the top 10 corners in football right now. He has very big play capabilities. They traded the Lions were trading him because they couldn't afford to sign him to a new deal. So they traded him to the Eagles. Eagles are signing him to a long-term deal, and they got a 3rd and a 5th round pick. The Lions did it for him. The other trade was the Colts traded their 1st round pick to the Niners, which was the number 13 overall pick, for DeForest Buckner. Why I view that as a kind of a bigger trade was because outside of their 2 first round picks for the 49ers, they don't really have much for picks. So you can take one piece off of that defensive line, which they're not hurting. Their defensive line is stacked. And you can take those 2 first round picks, 13 and 31, and you could either trade back, or you can also, there's also the possibility you could take 2 first round pick talents and add them to your already stacked defense. In my opinion, if one of those big receivers were still around at 13, meaning Judy, Ruggs, or what the hell is his name, or CeeDee Lamb, if one of those 3 big wide receivers were still available at pick 13, that automatically makes a huge difference for the 49ers, because they just lost Emmanuel Sanders, and besides Deebo Samuel, they don't really have much receiving talent. They got Dante Pettis, and they have a few other guys, but they're not like, oh boy, we have to watch out for this guy. No. Now, if they added a guy like CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs, I believe his name is, or Jerry Jeudy, I would say your offense is going to be a lot better, and you're going to be able to help Garoppolo develop more as a quarterback, because he can't be throwing to garbage. Brady showed that last year. You can't be throwing to garbage and still have success. Like, the Jets have shown it. They've been thrown to a lot of garbage receivers over the years. A lot of teams have proved you can't win with no talent at the receiver position. Let's see. Also, the Chargers signed Chris Harris Jr., which for a Chargers team that has a pretty decent secondary when it comes to their safeties, they don't have a lot of good corners. And that would be one thing, in my opinion, with the acquisition of Chris Harris Jr., I think that bolsters a depleted secondary in the sense of the corners. Safeties are still all pretty good. Corners, they have some talent, but Harris bolsters that team. Though I will say, now with the departure of Phillip Rivers, I don't really know how well I don't know how well they're gonna do without him. Though there was talk that Tyrod Taylor would end up being the starter in LA. But I think that would only be temporary until they find the QB of the future. Another big signing was Byron Jones, number 1 corner from the Cowboys, signing with the Dolphins on a 5-year, $82.5 million deal, reported by NFL.com. And honestly, that was a huge move for the Dolphins, a team that had no true corner help, or no true number 1 corner, I should say. That definitely helped. As for any other trades, let me look. Yeah, oh, here it is. The Ravens traded for Jaguars defensive end Calais Campbell for a 5th round pick. I felt like that was a huge steal. You getting one of the best defensive ends in football. And he's still at the top of his game, even in his a little bit older age. Jags are just trying to create some salary cap space at this point in time. So, because let's face it, they have a new regime in the front office. That's what they're just going to get rid of the previous regime's players for the most part. I think like they got rid of Boye already. That basically that entire team from 2014 when they made the or 2016. My bad. I don't remember. Screw it. 2017, I think, when they lost to the Patriots in the AFC title game. Other than that, free agency has been the free agency or off season has been relatively quiet. Though I will say this is one joke I thought was funny that the Texans decided to sign Randall Cobb, a guy who was a third option at best with his last team. So I thought that was an interesting move after losing one of the best receivers in football. So that's just my opinion. But now, after talking about those two subjects right there, guys, just trying to think. Do you guys have any questions? Do you have any topics that you think I should bring up at this point? Like, go ahead and comment in the live chat on the side here. Give me a topic. Like, at this point, it's a freelance. I had those two topics written down, but hey, I don't mind talking longer if you guys give me something to actually talk about. I figure a lot of you guys aren't baseball fans, so I'm not gonna bore you to death with baseball. I could also bring up. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna throw this one out there to the viewers that are on this right now. Who do you think is the greatest basketball player of all time? Like, I'll give you guys a few minutes to decide, and then go from there. Who do you think is the greatest basketball player of all time? Do you think the NBA is going to start up this year? I think it will start back up. I think we won't see. If the NBA was smart, I would just call the season as it is and just say, okay, when we resume, we're going to go right to playoffs. I think I get it that there's still a lot of the season left. I believe. Let me look. I want to say there was like 20 games remaining in the season. Yeah, so the Bucks were 53-12, so that puts them at 65 games. So you got to think there's about less than 20 games remaining in the season at that point when they suspended this NBA season. In my opinion, I think you could play those 20 games. You definitely could. But you could also just call it as it is. Call it as a 65 game season and just shorten the season and go right to playoffs. I know it would take away from teams like the Pelicans, I believe, that were on the outside looking in. But at this point, I do think they should just go right to playoffs. I just think if you play those last 20 games, especially the way that the NBA is played now, where you don't play back-to-backs anymore, you're going to draw this because by the time the season comes back, it's probably going to be out of June. Let's just be 100% honest here. It's probably going to be the end of May or early June until the season is resumed. And I just think you're basically saying that July and August and then September is going to be the end of the season with between playoffs and the regular season and the finals. That's basically what you're saying at that point. And then ultimately you're going to have to essentially push back the other season. Like, you're going to have to push back the start of the 2021 or the, I believe it would, it'd be the 21-22 season at that point. Or no, it'd be the 2021 season, I believe. Yeah. I'm right on that. It'd be the 2021 season. You'd have to push that back a month or two to give the players time to recover from the season. And let's see. I see that. Yeah. So you say Jordan or Kobe. I think those two are so hard to. Those two are so easy to compare because they're both the same kind of player, and they both played in an era of basketball that was much more celebrated than the time we're in now when it comes to basketball. Don't get me wrong, they're still great players. We still are entertained by fantastic players, fantastic talent, but I just don't think the NBA is as popular as it used to be. And then you said, who do you think the best player center of all time is? For me, it's got to be a tie. It's either got to be, I want to say Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Shaq. So that's just my opinion. Those two guys come right to mind. Another guy I would say is Hakeem Olajuwon. Like I that's a hard one for me. Like, Kareem has all the stats to prove it. Most in points, he's top 5 or top 3 in rebounds, top 3 in blocks. Like, he definitely has it in so many other senses. Like the 6 championships, 6 Finals MVPs, 6 MVPs. Like, the accolades are there and everything. And then the argument would be he played in a different era. He played in an era where there's not as much taller talent as him. But also, you have to think, when you talk about Hall of Famers as well, can you talk about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's era of basketball without mentioning him? You can't. You really can't. Can you? It's just like you can't talk about the 90s without talking about Jordan. The 2000s, you can't talk about Kobe or you can't talk about the 2000s without Kobe. It's just like the 2010s. You can't go without talking about LeBron either. So that's my sense that's my feeling on it, is that an era dominated by one player. You had the 70s that were dominant, 70s and mid 80s dominated by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And you also had Magic Johnson. To me, that's how I judge greatness of a player. Is, can you go through that entire period of talking about that player? Talking about that period of time. And how often do you have to mention that player? Like, the 90s were great for the Rockets in the sense of they won the 2 titles, but you might as well say the whole 90s era was dominated by Jordan. Like, yeah, he didn't start winning until 91, and then he won 91, 92, 93. Took 2 years off, came back, and then won 3 more. Like, that's the crazy part. And then it was, so 3 other teams won championships in that era. You had the Pistons in the 90 season. You had the 94 and 95 seasons of where the Rockets won, and then the 99 lockout shortened season. Okay, another question. Would the Sonics have won a championship if Scottie Pippen went there instead of the Bulls? I think that definitely would have made a huge that would have definitely made a huge difference. I get it that once Pippen went to the Bulls, that's when they won their 6. I also think that one way or another, Jordan would have still had his rings. I think the Sonics would have. I will say this: I don't think the Bulls would be known as the team that went 72-10 if they didn't have Pippen. That team was great, but Pippen was. It's just like any great player. You need no one player has won a championship on his own. Really, he always had that. He was always there was a player that was always the Batman, and then there was always every player always had to have the Robin to their Batman. You had to have that second player, your sidekick, that duo, because Kobe and Shaq, Kobe and Powell. Let's see, Dirk and Jason Kidd, and unfortunately for this is why LeBron gets so much hate. Is LeBron when he's won championships, he had D Wade and Bosh, Love and Kyrie. He had those. He had three. He had the big threes. He didn't have the duos like some of the people that required. I shouldn't say required. I should say that won with less talent. They had just more role players that could just handle a little bit more than what role players LeBron had at his disposal. But to answer your question, I think Sonics. I think the Sonics would have won a championship for sure if Pippen would have been with the Sonics. I definitely agree. I definitely think that. I also think the Sonics shouldn't have ever left, but everybody can thank the freaking idiot that sold the team. But whatever. Any other questions, guys? All right. Well, I'm gonna give you guys a couple more minutes to, if you got any more questions for me, fire them at me. If you don't, then I'm gonna say probably this is gonna be the end of the show today, guys. I definitely will be doing this again. Thank you for the strong turnout that everybody has. I saw that we had 5 viewers at one time on here at some point. So at some points during the show, and I appreciate you all for that. But yeah, I think I'm going to call it at this point, and I will probably be back on this with three topics, 3 or 4 topics for the next show, and that will be in the matter of the next few days. Nice. Good luck on Smash, man. All right, you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in to JW28 Martin's Sports Talk. Have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe. Stay inside. Just all this Corona shit will pass. All right. Signing off. Peace, guys.